A 68-year-old man walked into a grocery store. He reached for a gallon of milk, looked at the price, paused for a few seconds, then quietly placed it back on the shelf. Not because he didn't want it, because he couldn't afford it. This wasn't someone who wasted his life. He worked for more than 40 years. He paid taxes. He showed up every morning. He believed that if he worked hard, saved money, and waited patiently, retirement would finally be the reward. But it never came, and the most terrifying part, he isn't alone. Millions of Americans are heading toward the exact same future without even realizing it. Here's the scary question. How can someone work for 4 decades, do almost everything they were told, and still end up struggling to buy groceries? Was it bad planning? Was it inflation? Did Social Security fail them? Or is there something much bigger happening that almost nobody is talking about? Because here's the truth. Retirement doesn't fail overnight. It quietly falls apart years before you ever stop working. Most people think retirement begins at 65. It doesn't. Retirement actually begins with the financial decisions you make in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Every paycheck you spend, every dollar you don't invest. Every year you tell yourself, I'll start saving next year. Those small decisions don't feel dangerous until one day your paycheck disappears. But your bills don't. The mortgage is still there. The utility bills keep coming. Groceries cost even more than they did a few years ago. Healthcare expenses keep rising, and suddenly, the money you thought would last 20 years starts disappearing much faster than you ever imagined. This is what financial experts often call the retirement trap. And here's what's even more shocking. For most people, the biggest retirement mistake isn't something they make after they retire. It's a mistake they make 10, 15, even 20 years before retirement, without realizing it. And once you see what that mistake is, you'll understand why millions of Americans are finding out far too late that working hard was never enough. Most people believe the biggest retirement mistake is not saving enough. But that's only part of the story. The real danger is much harder to notice. Imagine 2 people. Both retire with exactly the same amount of money. Let's say they each have $500,000 saved. At first, they look identical. Same savings, same retirement age, same plan. But 10 years later, one of them is still living comfortably. The other is wondering if they'll run out of money before they run out of life. So what changed? It wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It was something almost invisible. Inflation. Most people think inflation just means groceries cost a little more every year. But in retirement, inflation becomes a silent paycheck killer. Because once you stop working, your money has only one job: to keep paying your bills year after year, decade after decade. Now imagine buying groceries for $300 a month today. A few years pass, prices climb, healthcare gets more expensive, insurance premiums go up, property taxes increase. The same lifestyle you once lived comfortably starts costing far more than you planned for. And that's exactly what catches millions of retirees off guard. They planned for retirement. They didn't plan for retirement getting more expensive every single year. But inflation isn't the only problem. There's another mistake that's even more dangerous. Many people spend decades saving money, yet they never learn how to make that money work for them. They believe putting cash into a savings account is enough. It feels safe. It feels responsible. But over long periods of time, cash that isn't growing slowly loses purchasing power. Not because someone stole it, but because everything around it became more expensive. That's why retirement isn't just about how much money you save. It's also about whether your money can keep up with the world around you. And then comes the biggest surprise of all. The expense almost nobody plans for. Not vacations, not new cars, not luxury spending. Healthcare, one unexpected surgery, one long hospital stay, or years of prescription medications, can completely change a retirement plan that looked perfect on paper. And this is where millions of Americans discover something heartbreaking. They didn't underestimate retirement. They underestimated how expensive growing older could become. But even after all of these risks, there's one mistake that destroys more retirement plans than inflation, more than healthcare, and even more than poor investing. It's a mistake people repeat for decades without realizing it. And once you understand it, you'll never look at retirement planning the same way again. That mistake is waiting. Waiting until you get a better job. Waiting until the kids grow up. Waiting until the mortgage is paid off. Waiting until you make more money. And before you know it, 10 years have disappeared. The truth is, retirement isn't built by one perfect decision. It's built by hundreds of small decisions repeated over decades. A little saved, a little invested, a little less spent, a little more planned on their own. They don't seem life-changing, but together, they can completely change the last 20 or 30 years of your life. Think about it. The average American spends decades preparing for a career, months planning a vacation, sometimes even weeks researching the next phone they'll buy. Yet many people spend almost no time planning the phase of life that could last 25 or even 30 years. That's why retirement catches so many people by surprise. Not because they didn't work hard, but because hard work alone was never the complete plan. Money without a strategy eventually runs out, and time is the one asset you can never earn back. If you're in your 20s, you have something incredibly valuable. Time. If you're in your 40s, you still have options. The choices you make over the next decade could have a huge impact on your retirement, and if you're already close to retirement, every financial decision matters more than ever. No matter where you are today, the best time to start planning was years ago. The second best time is today. Because retirement isn't about becoming rich. It's about protecting your freedom. It's about having the ability to buy groceries without checking your bank account first. It's about paying your bills without fear. It's about enjoying time with your family instead of worrying about running out of money. The 68-year-old man at the grocery store wasn't just putting a gallon of milk back on the shelf. He was putting back decades of expectations. The belief that working hard alone would guarantee security. For millions of Americans, that belief is slowly being challenged. But your story doesn't have to end the same way. The decisions you make today can shape the life you'll live tomorrow. And sometimes, the smallest financial decision you make this week can become the reason you sleep peacefully decades from now. If you found this video valuable, subscribe to MSBT Finance, because every week we break down the money decisions that shape your future, so you can avoid costly mistakes and build lasting financial freedom